Hello my dear children and parents. Welcome to class 8th of Indus Valley Public School Rat, where we were doing lesson number 6 from your Honeydew. And the name of the lesson is This is Jody's Fawn, written by Marjorie, Kinnan, Rawlings. So my dear children, in the previous video of this lesson, we had seen that Jody is emotionally preoccupied with the fawn whose mother had to be killed to save his father's life. He was concerned about the little fawn who was left without mother. He persuaded his father and mother to bring the fawn at home and agreed to share his part of milk with the fawn. He did not want to leave the fawn to starve. So he went with Millville in the search of fawn. But he wanted to go alone. Why? Because he did not want to share his emotions with anyone. Finally, he found the fawn with great difficulties. Okay, children? Now, in my next video, we will be seeing how Jody found the fawn, and we will also come to know how Jody gained the confidence and trust of the fawn. Okay, children? So, my dear children, in the last video, I have given you the homework to complete the comprehension checks. So, some questions were there. What had happened to Jody's father? How did Doe save Penny's life? Why did Jody want to bring the fawn home? How does Jody know that fawn was a male? So I hope you have completed the comprehension check of part 1. Then I have given the comprehension check. Again, 2 more questions were there. Jody did not want Millville with him for 2 reasons. What were they? Why was Millville afraid to leave Jody alone? Okay, so these 6 questions I expect everybody had done. Now moving to the third part of your lesson. Now here I start with it. Movements directly in front of him startled him so that he tumbled backward. The fawn lifted his face to him. It turned its head with a wide, wandering motion and shook him through with the stare of its liquid eyes. It was quivering. It made no efforts to rise or run. Jody could not trust himself to move. So now what happened? Here, he directly moved towards the fawn. So who is he here? Here, Jody. First, I'll tell you some word meanings. Startled, it means feeling or showing sudden shock or alarm. Tumbled, that means fallen or collapsed. Quivering, it means shaking with a speed rapid motion. Okay. So now what happened here? In this part, Jody was shocked after having experienced some movement in front of him as he fell backward. It was the fawn. The fawn lifted his face with a wide and wandering motion to see Jody and stared at him with his liquid eyes that it left Jody shook. So what happened? The look of fawn made Jody in a shock. The fawn was shaking with a slight rapid motion. The fawn sat still and made no effort to run, and he was sitting there and he was not running anywhere. Okay. Then Jody could not move, but he whispered lightly, "It's me." So now Jody is saying that to the fawn, and with a very polite, with a very calm manner, with a very loving manner to the fawn that it's me. The fawn lifted its nose, scenting him. He reached out one hand and laid it on the soft neck. That touch made him delirious. He moved forward on all 4 until he was close beside it. He put his arms around its body. A light convulsion passed over it, but it did not stir. So delirious here means extremely excited, a warm touch. Okay, and conversion means shiver. So now what happened? When Jody whispered very politely, very lightly that it's me, then Fawn sniffled and smelled him. Jody reached out his hand and laid it on his soft neck. Okay, his touch made the Fawn excited and he moved forward in an attempt to be close to Jody. Jody put his arm around the neck and made the Fawn shiver slightly, but he did not stir, which means that he was not frightened but comfortable. Who was not frightened? Fawn was not frightened by the touch of Jody, and he was comfortable in that. Okay. Next. He stroked its side as gently as though the Fawn were a china deer and he might break it. So now here Jody was handling the Fawn very, you can say, in an easy manner, very caretaking way, because it seems like a clay deer that is easily broken. China deer means a material that is very softly made. So he was handling the Fawn in a very polite manner, in a very possessive manner. Okay. Its skin was very soft. It was sleek and clean and had a sweet scent of grass. So it is a description of the deer baby that is very soft. Its skin was very soft. It's very thin and slim, and its body was smelling like a grass. He rose slowly and lifted the Fawn from the ground. Then Jody lifted himself and he picked up the Fawn in his hand. Okay. His legs hung limply. So when he was holding the baby Fawn, then the legs of the Fawn was hanging. See here in the picture how he is lifting him. They were surprisingly long and he had to hoist the Fawn as high as possible under his arm. Though the Fawn legs were quite long, so Jody had to hold him as high as possible under his arms. So what happened? You can say the legs of the Fawn was long, so Jody was holding high the Fawn so that he can easily move. He was afraid that it might kick and bleed at sight and smell of its mother. Okay. He skirted the clearing and pushed his way into the thicket. It was difficult to fight through with his burden. The Fawn's leg caught in the bush and he could not lift his own with freedom. He tried to shield his face from prickling vines. Its head bobbled with his stride. His heart thumped with the marvel of his acceptance of him. He reached the trail and walked as fast as he could until he came to the intersection with the road home. He stopped to rest and set the Fawn down on his dangling legs. It wavered on them. It looked at him and bleated. So here it is told that how he has taken Fawn to his home. So bleat means the weak or wavering cry made by the sheep, goat or calf. And here thicket is used for the dense group of bushes or trees. Vines means climbing or trailing woody stem planted related to the grapevine. Strides means walk with long decisive steps in a specified direction. Dangling means hanging loosely. Wavered means move in a quicker way or flicker way. Bleated, that it means make a characteristic weak or waving cry. So here in this paragraph it is told that how Jody lifted the Fawn and how he moved properly in the way, how he was making the way clear so that it should not hurt him, it should not hurt the baby Fawn. Okay, and he was also very tired as lifting Fawn in his hand, but he was carrying that Fawn until he did not find the intersection of the road. As soon as he came to the road, he stopped there. He took the rest. He put the fawn down, and so when the fawn was standing, his legs was dangling, means shivering, and it wavered, but it looked at him and bleated. So now it means here, when the fawn was standing, he started crying because he was feeling weak inside. Okay. He said, enchanted, I'll carry you after I get my breath. So now Jody is saying to the fawn that let my breath go down, then I will carry you up. Okay. So he remembered his father saying that a fawn would follow if it had first been carried. So now Jody was able to recall his father's word that the fawn will follow you if you carry him for some time. That means अगर fawn को आप अपने गोद में कुछ time के लिए लोगे, then he will start following you because he will develop some faith and trust in you. Okay. He started away slowly. The fawn stared at him. So now Jody started moving slowly away from the fawn. The fawn stared at him. The fawn started looking at him. He came back to it and stroked it and walked away again. So what happened? He came back to it. Jody, after moving away from him, when fawn started looking at him, then Jody again came back to the fawn, and Jody started walking at a slow pace. The fawn looked and walked further. Then again Jody came back to caress it and went forward again. So this time the fawn took a few weak steps in Jody's directions as he cried. Although wobbling, means although shaking, Jody was overjoyed by the fact that it was willing to go with him, which made the fawn his own. So here we see that the following of the fawn, as the fawn started following the Jody, that means fawn had developed the trust in Jody. Their bonding become strong. He was so overjoyed that he could not even think properly and clearly. At that moment, Jody wanted to caress it with all his desire, play with it and call it towards him. Okay. So now what happened? So it took few wobbling steps towards him and cried piteously. It was willing to follow him. So now he started following Jody. It belonged to him. So their trust, mutual understanding, belongingness started between Jody and the fawn. It was his own. He was light-headed with joy. So now Jody was very happy. All the tensions, like if fawn is going to accept or not, everything was gone away from Jody's head. And he wanted to play with that. He wanted to run. He wanted to enjoy everything. He wanted to jump with the fawn. Who want to do all this thing? Jody want to do all this thing with the fawn. To call to it to come to him. He dared not alarm. He picked it up and carried it in front of him over his two arms. It seemed to him that he walked without efforts. So now what happened? Jody wanted to caress it with all his desire, play with it and call it towards him. But he did not want to frighten it. Then he picked the fawn again in his arm and walked effortlessly. Okay. So now when he was walking, by taking the fawn in his hand, it was like very jollyful mood. He was not feeling tired and he was enjoying walking with the fawn. His arm began to ache and he was forced to stop again. When he walked on, the fawn followed him at once. So now again, when his arm was paining, he put the fawn down, but this time fawn was following him. He followed it to walk a little distance, then picked it up again. The distance home was nothing. He could have walked all day and into the night carrying it and watching it follow. He was wet with sweat, but a light breeze blew through the June morning, cooling him. The sky was as clear as spring water in a blue china cup. He came to the clearing. It was fresh and green after the night's rain. He fumbled with the latch and was finally obliged to set down the fawn to manage it. Then he had an idea. He would walk into the house, into Penny's bedroom, but the fawn walking behind him. But at the steps the fawn blinked and refused to climb them. He picked it up and went to his father. Penny lay with closed eyes. So barked means unwilling. Okay. So here again, I told you, like in the first line, Jody stopped unwillingly as his arm had started aching. The fawn followed him as he walked again behind the Jody. Jody would only allow the fawn to walk a few steps and then pick it up again. Home was almost near. Jody could not pick it up and watched it follow all day, but he was tired and sweating. A light breeze helped him dry his sweat on that June morning. The sky was so clear that it had been compared to spring water in a blue china cup. He reached the clearing at last, which was green and fresh after the showers last night. It was a bit difficult for him to open the latch of the house, but he could do it at once. He set the fawn down. At first, he thought of making the fawn follow directly into Penny's room and surprise him. But the fawn refused to climb the stairs as he was unable to climb that stairs. So Jody had picked up him to his father's bedroom, and his dad was resting with closed eye. So Jody called, "Pa, look." Penny turned his head. Jody stood beside him. The fawn clutched hard against him. It seemed to Penny that the boy's eyes were as bright as Fawn's. He said, "I'm glad you found him." So now when he was there in front of his father, so Jody called his father and said, "Look." And the father turned and Jody stood behind him. The fawn clutched hard against him. Okay. So now what are clutched means? To hold something very tightly. So what happened here? The fawn gasped him firmly. So now as soon as fawn saw Penny, he stood behind the Jody. But Penny could see Jody's eyes as bright and glowing as the fawn's. Penny expressed his happiness over Jody having been able to find the fawn. He was very happy. Jody's father was very happy to find the fawn. Jody then went to the kitchen. The fawn wobbled after him. A pan of morning milk stood in the kitchen, safe. The cream had risen on it. He skimmed the cream into a jug. He poured milk into a small gourd. He held it out to the fawn. It buttered it suddenly, smelling the milk. He saved it precariously from spilling over the floor. It could make nothing of the milk in the gourd. So now what happened? Jody went straight to the kitchen, and the fawn also followed him with his weak step, means very slow steps. In the kitchen, a pan filled with morning milk was kept, reserved, but cream had formed on it. He skimmed the milk and put it into a jug. While he poured the milk in a utensil made of a small gourd, the fawn sniffed the milk as Jody saved the milk from being spilled. The fawn could not drink the milk out of the gourd. So how he made to drink the milk? So now how he is doing? He dipped his finger in the milk and thrust them into the fawn's soft wet mouth. So now Jody, he used to dip the finger inside the gourd, and then when milk is there in the finger, he used to put the finger inside the fawn mouth. It sucked greedily. When he withdrew them, it bleated frantically and butted him. So frantically means in a hurried or excited way, and butted means hit something with the head or horn. So as soon as Jody removes his finger, the fawn started bleating, and he wants very hurriedly as if he was very hungry. and he was hitting from his head that he wants the milk again. Please provide the milk as soon as possible. When he dipped his finger again, and as the fawn sucked, he lowered them slowly into the milk. The fawn blew and sucked and snorted. It stamped its small hoofs impatiently. As long as he held his finger below the level of the milk, the fawn was content. It closed its eyes dreamily. It was ecstasy to feel its tongue against its hand. Its small tail flicked back and forth. The last of the milk vanished in the swirl of foam and gurgling. The ecstasy means overwhelming feeling of great happiness or joy, excitement. Gurgling, making by a bubbling sound. You can say making bubbling sound. So now what happened? So Jody used to dip fingers, and next time Jody put his finger into the fawn's mouth, he gently lowered it so as to bring it near the utensil. So now he was making his finger down, 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 so that now fawn can come down near to the utensil. Okay. The fawn became impatient, blew the milk as he sucked it and made sounds. The fawn was calm till Jody kept his finger inside the milk and he drank with eyes closed in satisfaction. So now see the trust that has been developed with Fawn and Jody. Fawn was believing Jody like anything. He was drinking milk by closing his eyes, and there was satisfaction. Why? Because Jody is with him. Jody felt overwhelmed on feeling its tongue against his hand, and his small tail moved back and forth. The milk disappeared quickly, forming foam, which was marked by a bubbling sound. So here we end with the lesson. So my dear children, we have seen that how Jody brought the fawn at home. Here in this chapter, we have seen humanity towards animals, love, care, then trust. Everything is shown in the lesson. Okay. So read the lesson properly. A question may come, how can you say this is Jody Fawn is a story that reflects humanity towards animal? Okay, so then you have to narrate in a very small and a very specific way the story. Okay, fine children. Now moving towards the summary. Children, before the summary, there are some comprehension questions. Please do that. How did Jody bring the phone back home? Jody was filled with emotion after he found the fawn. Can you find at least 3 words or phrases which show how he felt? How did the deer drink milk from the goat? Why did the fawn follow Jody up the step as he had thought it would? So please try to do these questions as your homework. Okay. So here is your summary of the lesson. The lesson, this is Jody's Fawn by Marjorie, Kinnan, Rawlings, revolves around the fawn whose mother was skilled to use its liver and heart to extract poison out of Jody's father Penny and saved his life after snake bite. It begins with Jody convincing his pa to bring the fawn home and raise it. Here raise it means he wants to bring that fawn at home, and then he put up the question in front of his father. Then his ma, then finally going with Millvale to search for it. The lesson takes you through Jody's journey from finding the fawn till taking it home with him. The lesson, this is Jody's Fawn, begins with Jody being unable to keep the fawn out of his mind. He expresses his concern to his father, Penny, who was resting as he had just been saved from death. He was bitten by a snake, and Jody killed a doe to use its heart and liver to extract poison out of his father. The doe had a fawn, and Jody was worried about it. He wanted to bring it home and raise it. Penny thought it would be ungrateful for them to leave the fawn to starve, and thus he agreed. Next, Jody convinced his mother about the same. who at first is reluctant, but on hearing the views of Millville and Doc Wilson, agreed to let Jody bring it home. She was okay with it if Jody would give it his share of milk, as they had nothing else to feed the fawn. Millville gave Jody a ride on his horse, and suddenly Jody realized he did not want company. He did not want anyone to see his disappointment if he was unable to find the fawn, and on the other hand, he did not want to share his loving moment on finding it either. Thus he sent Millville away. He began searching for the fawn and seized a group of buzzards near the killdeer, who he scares away by throwing a bow. He continues searching and finally finds the fawn looking at him with bright eyes. At first, Jody hesitated to go near him and only extended a hand to caress, that means to touch him, but it was only when fawn brought itself near him he carried it. He carried it through the clearing and reached the intersection road towards home. He kept it down to take rest, but the fawn cried. He remembered that his father told him that a fawn will follow you once you carry it first for a while. On the way home, he carried it for some time and let it follow him for a while. They finally reached home, and Jody wanted to show his father that the fawn followed him, but the fawn refused to climb the stairs. He carried it up the steps, and his father could see Jody's happiness through his bright eyes. Jody then took it to the kitchen to feed to his share of milk. He fed it with milk patiently till the gourd was left empty. Okay. Now coming to the moral of the story, love and compassion are necessities without which humanity cannot survive. True compassion means to not only feeling another's pain but also being moved to help relieve it. Okay, this is the moral of the story. Now coming to the question answers of the lesson. What had happened to Jody's father? Jody's father had been bitten by a rattlesnake. How did the doe save Penny's life? Penny used Joe's heart and liver to draw out the snake poison. In this way, the doe saved his life. Why does Jody want to bring the fawn home? Jody had killed the doe. Without the mother deer, the fawn was likely to starve to death in the forest. So Jody wanted to bring the young fawn home. How does Jody know that fawn is a male? The spots on the fawn's body made Jody know that it was a male, as all of them were in a line. Jody did not want Millville with him for two reasons. What were they? Jody did not want Millville to join him in the search of fawn. The reason was that he was not sure about fawn's safety. He did not want Millville to see his disappointment or excitement of getting the fawn. Why was Millville afraid to leave Jody alone? Millville was afraid that Jody might be lost in the jungle or might be bitten by the rattlesnake. How did Jody bring the fawn home back? Jody picked up the fawn into his arm and proceeded to home. After some distance, he kept the fawn down and took rest. Later on, the fawn followed him. Thus, he brought the fawn back home. Question number 8. Jody was filled with emotion after he found the fawn. Can you find at least 3 words or phrases which show how he felt? Following are the 3 things. The fawn shook him through with the stare of its liquid eye. The touch of the fawn made him delirious. He thought the fawn were a china deer. How did deer drink milk from the gourd? Jody dipped his finger in the milk. Then he left the fawn suck at his finger. He did so several times. Finally, the fawn drank all the milk from the gourd. Why didn't the fawn follow Jody up the stair as he had thought it would? The fawn did not know how to raise its feet to climb the steps. Why did Penny Baxter allow Jody to find the fawn and raise it? Penny Baxter convinced all Jody's argument that it would be ungrateful if they left the fawn in the forest to starve. He realized that, and Jody was right. What did Doc Wilson mean when he said, "Nothing in the world never comes quite free." Doc Wilson meant that Penny must pay back to the doe that was killed in order to save the life of his gain by bringing up her fawn. How did Jody look after the fawn after he accepted the responsibility for doing things? Jody looked after the fawn like a mother. He made it drink milk with his finger dipped in the milk. This is how a mother feeds her baby. Jody was glad that he had found the fawn. How does Jody's mother react when she hears that he is going to bring the fawn home? Why does she react in this way? Jody's mother turned her nose when she heard that he was going to bring fawn. She gasped with surprise because she did not want to see an animal in her home. So my dear children, here we end with the question answers. Please go through the lesson, complete your summary and the question answers. Any doubt, do ask me. And please send your work in my WhatsApp so that I can check it out. Okay. So read the lesson properly, go through the video. Please do not think only question answers and summary are enough. No. If I've explained the part, then I can put up the question from between the video, from between the chapters. Please go through the video, read it properly and then do your work. Okay. So thank you so much. Bye-bye and take care.